I've really been enjoying the
How?
Minecraft speedruns.
In
Here is a
1972,
short and funny
people
video.
marched to demand the
Please
right
watch.
to legal abortions.
xQc.
And the next year, the Supreme Court case Roe v. Wade granted them that right. But fast forward to almost 50 years, and protests for abortion rights are still happening. A lot of the fight over abortion policy centers on restrictive laws set by state governments and the courts that uphold or strike down those laws, including the Supreme Court. But the president and Congress hold a unique power over abortion access because they have the final say on the federal dollars that support it. In every federal budget for the past 43 years, among all the programs the government funds, like the military, foreign aid, and education, there's also language about something the government can't spend federal money on: coverage of abortion, except in the case of rape or incest, or if the pregnancy would place the woman in danger of death.
Jesus.
This provision is called the Hyde Amendment, and it disproportionately affects low-income people who rely on federally funded health care. Every president since 1976 has supported the Hyde Amendment by approving an annual federal budget from Congress that's included it. But the 2020 election could change this, because while one candidate supports the Hyde Amendment, the other has vowed to oppose it.
Oh! Oh my god! Oh! Guys, I have no horse in this race, okay? Guys, I don't give a fuck, okay? Guys, political shit, okay, for me is whatever, okay? And candidates, dude, and presidents, I don't give a fuck, okay? But can I be honest, dude? That sounds like bullshit to me, if I heard one.
The other has vowed to oppose it.
Oh my god! Somebody's saying something that they'll do if they're elected? Oh my, what could possibly go wrong? No way, dude! Guys, come on, man. Really,
the Hyde
dude?
Amendment's induction into the federal budget can be traced back to Roe v. Wade. In the years immediately following this decision, the federal government paid for abortions through Medicaid, which accounted for roughly a third of all abortion procedures. But the anti-abortion backlash was swift, including in Congress. In 1976, Illinois Representative Henry Hyde proposed the abortion-restricting Hyde Amendment during an annual budget hearing. It passed with a 199 to 165 vote, ending up in that year's spending bill where it has stayed ever since, voted for by anti-abortion politicians and pro-abortion rights politicians. In every case, these budgets have been approved and signed by the sitting president. In 1977, Henry Hyde made the intentions of his amendment clear. He said, "I certainly would like to prevent, if I could legally, anybody having an abortion, a rich woman, a middle-class woman, or a poor woman. Unfortunately, the only vehicle available is the Medicaid bill." There's a handful of agencies directly affected by the Hyde Amendment that provide health care through federal funding, like the Indian Health Service and the Peace Corps. But Medicaid is the biggest. It pays for basic health services for just over 76 million people in the U.S. who live near the poverty line or are disabled.
Guys, honestly, on this topic, I have no take. I have no side, okay? So it's kind of hard to react and say anything about it because I don't even have a formed opinion in my head. I don't even have an idea of what I believe in because I don't know. I don't know the facts, the sides, the downsides, upside. I don't know anything.
Part of Medicaid's funding comes from federal dollars.
Is it?
The other part comes from the state you live in.
Abortion care in the United States.
Well, just like stuff like death penalty or whatever. Like if you would have asked me a question like that, I probably wouldn't answer because I don't. Not because I want to hide my answer, because I don't really have one. And if I had one, it'd be one that I'm immediately going to. It doesn't come from a place that is rooted into knowledge or analysis. It'd just be like my first idea. That's what you would get. A first idea. And that's never really good. Your first idea, it's not good.
Is largely driven
like a draft.
by where you live, both in terms of the availability of services, and in addition to that, the ability of insurance to pay for it.
These 16 states will help Medicaid users cover the cost of abortion. But these 34 states and Washington, D.C. won't. Anyone seeking an abortion there has to pay the full bill. That means nearly 8 million people of childbearing age who live in these states aren't covered for abortion services because of the Hyde Amendment. These Medicaid restrictions place the biggest burden on low-income people.
Right.
We could basically quit doing the work we do if the Hyde Amendment didn't exist.
Lori Roberts manages an abortion fund in Alabama, one of the most restrictive states when it comes to abortion access.
An abortion fund is a organization that helps people access abortion care. It can be anything that
videos are
removes
good,
the barriers to getting to and from the clinic. And then there's just direct financial support for the abortion procedure.
The price of an abortion in the first 10 weeks of pregnancy without coverage is roughly $500, and it gets more expensive in later weeks of pregnancy. That's a lot of money for someone who qualifies for Medicaid. To be eligible, you generally have to make less than 138% of the federal poverty line. For a single person, that's less than an $18,000 annual income. For a family of two, it's $24,000. And for a family of three, it's about $30,000.
Jesus.
Because of racial disparities in our country, Medicaid recipients are more likely to be Black or Hispanic.
I can personally...
I don't understand that. I'm shaking it with the video. Who gives a fuck if I don't
It
understand?
was like for me, right? I went to the clinic. I went for my first appointment. I scheduled my procedure. I wanted to have a procedure. And
Don't understand it? Well, I don't get this. Only people that are broke can use this, and they give stats about who uses it.
Are more likely to be Black or Hispanic.
So how does that have any relevancy? So how is this of any relevance?
I can personally say what it was like for me, right? I went to the clinic. I went for my first appointment. I scheduled my procedure. I wanted to have a procedure, and I couldn't. I didn't have the money in time. That doesn't mean that I don't love my child. It doesn't mean any of those things. But what it means is that I went through a lot of emotional and physical trauma because what should have been a decision that was only mine was taken away from me.
A study of 269 women from 2015 to 2017 in Louisiana, a state that doesn't cover abortion through Medicaid, shows that 29% of women would have had an abortion had Medicaid covered it, which is the intended effect for anti-abortion advocates. Fewer people having abortions. Abortion restrictions like the Hyde Amendment have made their way into other types of health insurance coverage too. In 2010, Congress didn't pass the Affordable Care Act until it included language saying marketplace plans don't have to cover abortion.
Right.
Today, these states won't cover it under marketplace plans. And these states even restrict private insurance companies from covering the procedure.
And so that more and more people are affected, and they may not even know that they've been affected until they seek abortion care.
But it's the Medicaid restrictions, both federal and state, that specifically
watch
target
this.
poor
It's the new
people.
videos.
Abortion is like many other services. If you have means, you can either have insurance that pays for a service, or you can afford to pay for these services. out of
This chat's
pocket.
losing it.
And if it's not offered in a place that's close to you, you can afford to either travel, get lodging, take time off of work, get childcare. All of those things are things that are available to higher income women that may not be available to lower income women.
The two candidates in the 2020 election are solidly in their partisan corners on the issue of abortion access. But that wasn't always the case. Joe Biden took office in the Senate in 1973, the same year Roe v. Wade passed. And he's supported the Hyde Amendment since it entered the federal spending bill in 1976. But in 2020, this is the landscape. The state you live in and how much money you have are the biggest factors in whether someone can access an abortion, which is why Joe Biden, as a presidential candidate, says he's changed his stance.
If I believe healthcare is a right, as I do,
Guys. I don't want to be too political, but I feel like there's so much incentive to change your views based on what you can gain from it. It's kind of difficult to kind of trust anybody. Like, oh, dude, holy shit, that's the new opinion people have now. Ooh, goddamn, guys, listen, this is my new reform opinion. And you're like, dude, fuck off.
I can
Shut
no
the fuck
longer
up.
support an amendment that makes that right dependent on someone's zip code.
And Trump has only dug deeper in his anti-abortion position.
I notified Congress that I would veto any legislation that weakens pro-life policies or that encourages the destruction of human life.
It's also why the stakes for abortion policy for the 2020 election are clear. It's a choice between a president who plans to lift this barrier to abortion access for the country's most vulnerable people and one who will keep the status quo at their expense.
I'm sorry. I only laugh.
Thanks for watching.
Guys, like I said, I don't have any takes, okay? Or any preferred side or present jet, whatever Trump talks, it just makes me laugh.